Battle Creek, located in southwest Michigan, is a welcoming town celebrated for its friendly neighborhoods and robust economic industry. As a thriving community in the United States, it boasts a diverse population of residents. Among those residents was an innocent 21-year-old girl named Ashley Parlier in the year 2005, a year that would forever change the course of her life. Ashley Parlier was born on October 16, 1983, to Sherry and Russell Parlier. She grew up as a shy and quiet child, with only a few close friends. Her family had always been concerned about her trusting and naive nature. Ashley's older sister, Nicole Campan, remembered her as a trusting soul who believed in the inherent goodness of people. Ashley saw the world through a lens of positivity, always hoping for the best in others. Ashley, with her brown eyes and a beautiful smile that showcased her crooked teeth, graduated from Battle Creek Central High School and found employment at the nearest Taco Bell restaurant located on Northeast Capitol Avenue. At the age of 21, she was a lean and petite girl, weighing just 100 pounds. Her mental capacity was estimated to be that of a 12 to 14-year-old, which made her particularly vulnerable. In 2005, Ashley's life took a tragic turn. She found herself pregnant, a fact that deeply worried her parents, Russell and Sherry Parlier. They urged her to see a doctor and receive prenatal care, but Ashley resisted their intervention. Frustrated and upset, she left her family's home in Bedford Township, a neighborhood called Urbandale in Battle Creek, on June 12, 2005. All she had with her was $700, which she had been saving to purchase a car. Little did her family know that this would be the last time they saw her. Initially, her family assumed she had gone to a friend's house to blow off steam and expected her to return soon. However, as days turned into weeks without any sign of Ashley, their worry grew. Finally, about a week later, they decided to report her missing to the police. The authorities released information about Ashley's physical appearance, describing her as 5 feet 9 inches tall and last seen wearing a checkered shirt and blue jeans paired with brown leather sandals. The police received several tips from the public, indicating sightings of Ashley in different parts of the city, with a focus on the Houghton Lake area. Unfortunately, all these leads turned out to be dead ends, leaving her family increasingly anxious. As the investigation continued, suspicion turned toward Ashley's parents, who had not immediately reported her disappearance. Her father agreed to take a polygraph test and was cleared of any wrongdoing. However, Ashley's mother, Sherry, who was showing signs of Huntington's disease, declined to undergo the polygraph. Nicole, Ashley's sister, defended their parents, explaining that the family had been embroiled in an argument, and they assumed Ashley needed time to process things and would return soon. In their small Michigan town, sudden disappearances were rare, and they never imagined it would take years to uncover the truth. The police also looked into Ashley's ex-boyfriend, suspecting him to be the father of her unborn child. However, their investigation did not yield any conclusive evidence tying him to the crime. Despite their dedicated efforts, the police could not find any leads, suspects, or evidence related to Ashley's disappearance, and the case eventually went cold. In March 2021, officers renewed their efforts to uncover the truth about Ashley's disappearance. Detectives from various law enforcement agencies, including the Calhoun County Sheriff's Department and the Michigan State Police, joined the investigation. Sheriff Steve Hinckley even informed the media about the extensive efforts made to solve the case, including trips to California, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. A breakthrough in the case came unexpectedly when Pennsylvania law enforcement contacted Calhoun County officers in January 2021. They had found a lead in Ashley Parlier's case while questioning Harold David Holman III, a 44-year-old serial killer, about the murders of 2 other women, Tiana Phillips and Erica Schultz. Holman, seeking to avoid the death penalty, requested that all 3 cases be merged, shocking the detectives who had not previously connected him to Ashley's disappearance. Further investigation revealed that Holman had committed another horrific murder, this time admitting to killing Ashley Parlier. All that remained were the answers and reasons behind this heinous crime. Harold David Holman III was born on November 29, 1978, and had lived in Germany during his late teenage years. His criminal tendencies emerged when he was just 20 years old. On May 30, 1999, Holman was sitting around a campfire when he attacked Joseph Whitehurst, a 21-year-old son of an Air Force colonel. Holman felt threatened by Joseph's dancing and brutally assaulted him. Joseph was initially thought to be missing, but was later found outside Ramstein Air Base, bludgeoned to death with a club found at the crime scene. Holman's admission to this crime occurred after he was arrested for an unrelated offense and confessed to Joseph's murder. In Germany, Holman was tried as a juvenile, receiving a 6-year term at a reform school. After returning to the United States, he pursued a career as a truck driver. Holman's partial confession about Ashley's murder led to the Calhoun County Police Department taking over the case. It was revealed that Holman had been a resident of Battle Creek between 2002 and 2009, and he had crossed paths with Ashley at a bowling alley. To everyone's shock, it was confirmed that Holman was the father of Ashley's unborn child. During further interrogation, Holman disclosed chilling details of Ashley's last moments. He revealed that after her argument with her parents, Ashley had come to his house in Emmett Township, Michigan on the evening of June 13, 2005, seeking help for a pregnancy test. An argument escalated, and Holman violently assaulted Ashley, rendering her unconscious. He then transported her to the Pennsylvania hills, where he brutally bludgeoned her to death. Holman used a log to carry out the gruesome act and left her lifeless body in an overgrown field in Newton Township, 10 miles from town. He returned home, took a shower, and disposed of his bloody clothing at his workplace. Holman claimed that he felt deep remorse after killing Ashley and drowned his guilt in alcohol for weeks. He even revisited the location years later, finding only her skeletal remains. Holman's confession revealed his fascination with serial killers, particularly citing the influence of movies like Silence of the Lambs and the character Hannibal Lecter. When asked which homicide he remembered the most, he replied that he could vividly recall all of them, and admitted that had he not been apprehended, he would have continued to kill. Holman, who had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, revealed that he had planned to kill again after several years. On June 13, 2018, he targeted a new victim, a mother of 2 children named Tiana Phillips, who subsequently disappeared without a trace. Similarly, on December 6, 2020, Erica Schultz, a 26-year-old autistic woman, had arranged to meet an online date named Dave. The date went awry, and Erica went missing, prompting her worried family and friends to contact the police. Law enforcement examined Erica's contact history and identified Holman as the prime suspect. On December 27, 2020, a Norfolk Southern police officer arrested him along railroad tracks in Duncannon, Pennsylvania, with a self-inflicted wound. Holman expressed a desire to die for his sins and confessed to the murders of Schultz and Phillips. While receiving medical treatment in the hospital, he was subsequently sent to jail. In jail, Holman wrote a letter to his ex-wife, providing a chilling account of his brutal actions in killing Tiana Phillips. He expressed that there was no real reason to kill Tiana other than seeking the rush he experienced during his murders. Holman nonchalantly described it as, just like another day in the park. It became evident that Holman was not an ordinary criminal. He followed a distinct pattern in his killings. He would incapacitate his victims with blunt force trauma to the head, ensuring they were unconscious before attacking them. He would then dispose of their bodies without burying them and revisit the remains months later. Calhoun County Sheriff's Department Detective John Pignataro noted that Holman did not maintain a permanent address in Pennsylvania in 2021 and attributed his actions to a failed marriage. Holman held a distorted belief in alpha and non-alpha individuals, referring to a master-submissive dynamic. He believed that when his wife did not submit to him, he sought that dynamic in extramarital affairs. In a surprising turn of events, Holman eventually offered an apology to the Parlier family. He stated that he regretted Ashley's murder more than any other, but Nicole, Ashley's sister, could not accept an apology from a serial killer who had not only taken her sister's life, but also claimed 3 other innocent victims. Despite identifying the killer, Ashley remained missing, and her family continued to suffer. In an attempt to locate Ashley's remains, the police asked Holman to lead them to the area where he had left her body. As part of a plea deal with the Luzerne County District Attorney's Office, Holman agreed to cooperate in finding Ashley's remains in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. He guided Calhoun County Police to a wooded area at 6.5 Mile Road in Newton Township, south of Battle Creek. Despite the involvement of nearly 24 officers in a search on March 30, 2022, her body could not be located. Residents of the area recalled that the land had been farmland in 2005, but it had since been subdivided and sold to different property owners. Holman's inability to pinpoint the exact location where he had left Ashley's body frustrated the search efforts. Nevertheless, the police remained determined not to give up on finding her. In July 2021, Holman was charged with the murder of 21-year-old Ashley Parlier. Faced with the possibility of the death penalty, he pleaded guilty to the murders of Schultz and Phillips in September 2021, ultimately receiving 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Lucerne County President Judge Michael T. Val denounced Holman as evil for taking the lives of these innocent women for no reason. He described Holman's actions as unprecedented in his 30-year career. In February 2023, Holman pleaded guilty to the second-degree murder of Ashley Parlier. He was sentenced to 37.5 to 60 years in prison during his trial on April 10, 2023. Nicole, on behalf of her family, delivered a victim impact statement during Holman's trial. She was joined by the older sisters of other victims from Pennsylvania who had connected with her through a Facebook group called Bring Ashley Home. They found solace in their shared grief and vowed to remember their sisters for their goodness and kindness, not the man who took their lives. Calhoun County Sheriff Steve Hinckley continued to seek any information that could aid in resolving Ashley Parlier's case, which finally received some closure after 18 years of uncertainty and anguish. While Ashley's family may never fully recover from the tragedy, the identification and sentencing of her killer brought a sense of justice to a grieving community that had searched tirelessly for answers. In the 1980s, a sinister presence began to cast a dark shadow over South Florida, particularly in the Miami-Dade and Broward County areas. This malevolent figure targeted vulnerable women, leaving behind a trail of trauma and fear. Despite his anonymity, his method of operation remained consistent and horrifying. He would infiltrate their apartments, armed with a sharp object, often obscuring his face or theirs with a cloth, typically a pillowcase. His modus operandi included menacing threats, not only against the women, but also their loved ones if they dared to call for help. Once inside, he would restrain his victims, ransack their possessions, leaving them utterly defenseless, and subject them to unspeakable violations. All his victims shared eerie similarities. They lived alone, were attacked during the night, and the perpetrators seemed to possess intimate knowledge of their routines and apartment layouts. One survivor, identified as Catherine, recounted how the intruder had rifled through her wallet, knew her address, and even her name, instilling paralyzing fear in her. South Florida became a place of dread and apprehension as he continued his reign of terror. As fear gripped the community, the media was quick to broadcast news of this monstrous assailant lurking in the shadows. The situation was dire, and law enforcement realized they needed to act swiftly. Task forces comprising highly skilled and determined officers were established across the 2 counties. The stakes were high, and the pressure to apprehend the culprit mounted. Investigators tirelessly pursued leads, amassing an impressive volume of evidence, yet the identity of the criminal remained elusive. Unfortunately, the technology of that era was not advanced enough to process the evidence from the crime scenes effectively, so it was stored with the hope that future technological advancements would help bring the perpetrator to justice. However, a glimmer of hope persisted in the form of a rare O-blood-type subgroup. By 1987, the trail had gone cold, and the task force set up to capture the enigmatic criminal was disbanded in 2019. Then Sergeant Cami Floyd, by chance, stumbled upon the case and became captivated by it. She poured countless hours into studying the evidence, determined to find a lead. Despite hitting numerous dead ends, she refused to concede defeat. In an unexpected turn of events in 2019, Robert Kohler Jr., a 29-year-old man, was arrested on charges of attempted burglary, domestic violence, and criminal mischief. Pursuant to protocol, his DNA was collected and entered into a federal database. Astonishingly, his DNA matched a sample collected from a December 1983 case in Miami-Dade. In this incident, a 25-year-old woman had been forced to cover her face with a blanket before being attacked with a sharp object, presumably an ice pick. Remarkably, she survived the assault, but there was a startling twist. Robert Kohler Jr. had not even been born at the time of the crime. This revelation implied that the perpetrator in the 1983 case was related to him, most likely his father, Robert Eugene Kohler. With the elder Kohler now a prime suspect, investigators delved deeper into his history and uncovered his unsettling past as a registered sex offender, having committed crimes in Palm Beach County in 1990. He had been sentenced to probation but violated it, leading to a 120-day jail term. However, because DNA collection was not mandatory at that time, no DNA sample had been obtained from him. Determined to build a watertight case against Kohler Sr., investigators decided to closely monitor him. On January 16, 2020, they meticulously followed him to a grocery store, collecting DNA swabs from items he touched, including a shopping cart and a door handle. These samples were quickly sent to the Miami-Dade Police Department's crime laboratory for testing, with results confirming a match with the DNA from the 1983 crime scene. This breakthrough, however, necessitated a final confirmation, with DNA directly collected from Kohler's body. On January 18, 2020, law enforcement officers from various agencies and cities descended upon Kohler's residence in Palm Bay to arrest him. During their search, they stumbled upon a chilling discovery: a partially constructed dungeon, sending shivers down their spines. Furthermore, they uncovered women's jewelry and a metal nail file, believed to be trophies from his crimes. Following his arrest, fresh DNA swabs were collected from Kohler and matched with the original specimens from approximately 24 suspected cases. The evidence was damning, and detectives collaborated tirelessly with prosecutors to bring 6 sexual assault charges against Kohler Sr., including sexual battery, kidnapping, and burglary, among others. Just when it appeared that justice had been served, the Broward Sheriff's Office announced 2 years later that Kohler would face an additional 6 charges in their county. Kohler, however, remained steadfast in maintaining his innocence. The trial for the December 1983 incident commenced in January 2023, with prosecutors presenting a compelling case detailing the heinous crimes he had allegedly committed, including the murders of young girls, sadistic acts, and other atrocities. In contrast, Kohler's defense team argued that there was insufficient evidence to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. During the trial, the 63-year-old Kohler shocked everyone with his testimony. He claimed that he had been drugged, kidnapped, and tortured by corrupt police officers who had extracted his semen and planted it at the crime scene. According to him, the motive behind this sinister plot was to justify increased police budgets. On March 16, 2023, the verdict was finally delivered, finding Kohler guilty of 2 charges: kidnapping while using a weapon and burglary with assault or battery while armed. The sexual battery charge had to be dropped due to the expiration of the statute of limitations. Kohler was sentenced to 17 years in prison for his crimes, though he still faced additional charges in Broward County, which could result in further years behind bars if he is found guilty. Ada Pearson's arrival on March 14, 1982, marked a joyous occasion for the Pearson family. As the eldest among her 4 siblings, Ada possessed a natural inclination to care for her younger brother Jonathan, as well as her sisters Ashley and Joanna Pearson. Yet Ada's influence extended far beyond her immediate family. Everyone fortunate enough to have crossed paths with Ada described her as a radiant beam of sunshine. Her contagious laughter and quick-witted humor had the power to illuminate even the gloomiest of days. Her heart of gold left an indelible mark on the lives of all who had the privilege of knowing her. she served as a constant wellspring of inspiration and positivity. Upon her graduation from El Capitan High School in California in 2000, Ada embarked on a journey of self-improvement, enrolling in sign language and mathematics courses at Grossmont Community College. Alongside her pursuit of knowledge, Ada's heart found its counterpart in a young man named Michael Plummer, then 20 years old. Their love story unfolded organically, and eventually, Ada moved in with Michael, sharing an apartment on Bancroft Street in San Diego, California. Their union appeared unbreakable, and a bright future beckoned. However, fate had other plans, and tragedy struck unexpectedly, forever altering the course of Ada's promising life. The fateful night of September 4, 2000, would be etched into the annals of tragedy. A frantic call to the police reported gunshots erupting from Michael's apartment, sending officers racing to the scene. What they encountered was a nightmare beyond comprehension. The apartment lay in disarray, and amid the chaos they discovered Ada and Michael sprawled on the living room floor, drenched in pools of crimson. Michael's body bore multiple gunshot wounds beyond salvation, while Ada clung to life, her form riddled with bullets. Tragically, the horror did not end there. 21-month-old Julio Rangel, Michael's nephew, had also fallen victim to the violence, fighting for his own life. Fortunately, Julio's parents had managed to escape unscathed. The neighborhood was left shell-shocked, and authorities grappled to unravel the unsettling puzzle. In a desperate bid to save Ada and Julio, both were rushed to separate hospitals. Yet, the extent of their injuries proved insurmountable, and they succumbed to their wounds shortly after arrival. As detectives relentlessly pieced together the events leading up to this tragedy, a shocking revelation emerged. Mere moments before the gunfire erupted, Michael had ventured next door to procure drugs from a man named Sergio Lopez Contreras. However, upon returning with the drugs, Michael reneged on payment, infuriating the dealer. In a surge of rage, Sergio unleashed a hail of bullets from outside the apartment door, firing a total of 14 rounds into the living room, with devastating consequences. Once the truth behind the murders came to light, detectives were resolute in their determination to bring Sergio to justice. However, the cunning drug dealer recognized the gravity of his predicament and chose to flee the country, escaping to Mexico. His evasion threatened to thwart the relentless pursuit of justice, as detectives speculated about his whereabouts. It was believed he had sought refuge in Tijuana, where he had family ties, but leads grew scarce, and the investigation reached a disheartening impasse. The families of the victims yearned for answers, closure, and justice. Yet, as days turned to weeks and weeks into months, it seemed increasingly unlikely that the perpetrator responsible for this heinous act would face accountability. Their grief was compounded by the knowledge that the individual who had torn their loved ones from them remained at large, seemingly untouched by the law. For 2 agonizing decades, they clung to the fragile hope that justice would eventually prevail, and the perpetrator would be apprehended. Finally, in March 2023, after a protracted period of waiting, long-awaited news arrived. The police announced the arrest of Sergio, the primary suspect in the triple murder case, in Mexico on unrelated charges. While the specifics of his arrest remained undisclosed, this development infused a surge of relief and optimism into the hearts of the victims' families, who had endured years of suffering and uncertainty. At long last, there was a glimmer of hope that closure might be within reach. On March 22, 2023, Sergio, now 44 years old, was escorted across the U.S. border with the assistance of the U.S. Marshals and La Fiscalía General de la República. He was promptly booked into San Diego Central Jail, facing 3 counts of murder, along with special circumstances, including allegations of employing a rifle in the commission of the killings and lying in wait. The courtroom atmosphere brimmed with tension when he was arraigned 2 days later, on March 24, 2023. Appearing via teleconference, Sergio entered a plea of not guilty to the 3 counts of first-degree murder brought against him. The families of the victims, who had endured more than 2 decades of grief, expressed their profound gratitude to the law enforcement officials who had steadfastly pursued the case. With the suspect now in custody, their hopes rested on the legal system to deliver the justice they had yearned for over the years. It was a moment of renewed hope for the families, a glimmer of light piercing through the darkness of their long, painful journey towards closure and justice.